Hi everyone, welcome to the Content Takedown. This week in the Content Takedown chair, I have one of my old colleagues. This is Paul. Paul, tell us a little bit about what you do and welcome to the Content Takedown.
Thank you very much, Felicity. Yes, it's nice to be here and it's nice to be talking to you again.
Yep.
Bit about me, about 16 years of digital marketing experience for B2B, B2C, had my own agency, sold that about 4 years ago.
Longer, I think, no?
4 or 5 years ago.
We met about 4 years ago, so it must have been a bit longer than that, yeah.
So 5 years ago. See,
Yeah.
time flies.
I think even longer than 4 years ago.
No,
No, it's
can't
about 4
be.
years ago, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, we met when we were, am I allowed to say the name?
Yeah, it's on our LinkedIn
Hi.
profile.
So we were working together at Natural Intelligence in the same team, and both being from the UK. So there was a connection there, and we've stayed in touch. And actually since then, since we both left, we've partnered up on some projects together.
Yes. Anyway, so long story short, we're going to do things a little bit differently today, right, for the Content Takedown. You want to talk about content marketing, SEO, content in general, and we'll just have like a conversation discussing it without actually physically taking down anything. So, hit it up. Let's do it.
All right. Well, one of the most common questions that I get asked by clients or just people in general interested is, all right, what type of content does Google like? And you probably hear that equally as often as I do, being a very talented content writer.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. And the simple answer is, don't write your content for Google. Like, just focus on writing the best bit of content you can about the subject that you are writing it for the user. Like, don't write it for Google, because you know what? I mean, we've as I said before, we've partnered up on certain projects, and I never came to you and said, all right, the heading needs to be this, and the keywords needs to be that, and it should be X amount of words, and this and this, because I would imagine as a creative content writer, as soon as I narrow the parameters, it makes it virtually impossible for you to be creative. Whereas if I just come to you and say, all right, I need you to write the best bit of content on mobile phone data, and I'm saying that subject because I've just looked at my phone. Don't care about keywords, just write the most engaging bit of content you can.
You know what, actually? It really depends. I've had it both ways where it's been, I personally like a bit of structure, especially if it's a topic that I'm not an expert in. So having a suggested headline, if it's just a suggestion, that's fine, because especially I find when non-native speakers give suggestions, they put the grammar's all weird. They always phrase everything as a question when it shouldn't be a question, you know what I mean? Like random question marks where they shouldn't be. And keywords, so I'm fine with that. I'm actually okay with that. I feel like I can be creative in those bounds. I know my writers can also be creative in those bounds. However, when it gets to the point where it's like, this paragraph needs to be with this keyword and that keyword, with this, no longer with this, that is when it's too much. Like, I think any good content writer can take a sort of structure and make it work. But I think on the other hand, just saying, write the best piece about listening to this, that's also very, it's too like, not
too broad, do you think?
Yeah, it's way too broad sometimes. It depends. I mean, someone like me, I can work like that. I would take that and I would say, okay, fine. I'd obviously know how, because, you know, I've learned from you. I would go do the research. I'd see what other people are doing. I'd see what Google was, you know, showing up as recent searches and everything. I'd work it all in. I'd make it better than any competitors. But that's me. I think every content writer is very, very different, and every SEO person is very different. I think for us two, we've learned how to work together over the years. So it's like,
that's for sure.
Exactly. So it's like a different story. But I don't know. I agree that like you can't write for Google. You just can't. There's no point to it. You know, this isn't, you know, pre-Google Panda. This is now you have to write for humans, and there's so much content out there, and it's always a battle. But I think there's another problem, and tell me if this is tangentializing, but I think most people just aren't writers, especially in Israel, especially nowadays. Everyone wants to be a writer because, oh, I speak English, might as well write it.
Well, I think, you know, lots of people are seeing the attraction of working from home, and they think, what can I do from home? Well, I can, you know, I read, so if I can read it, then I can write it. And, you know, I'm mother tongue English. I'm not a content writer, and I certainly wouldn't attempt to be a content writer. However, as a native English speaker, when I read content, I know what's the difference between good content and bad content. And I'm not talking about anything out of the ordinary. I'm talking about make sure your content doesn't have spelling mistakes. Make sure the grammar is correct. For people out there, use Grammarly. It's a free tool. If you need
Grammarly is
it,
the best.
use it. It's amazing. I've got it on my setup, so I've got it on emails. It's all good. But just going back to the content, make it user engaging. Have some value to it. So if you have a website and you're selling products, make sure your product descriptions are engaging, are fun, exciting.
And
You're trying to sell something. You're trying to sell something. So imagine if, substitute your website for a shop in the high street.
Yep.
You wouldn't have your shop window just like a black canvas, because nobody would, people would think your shop's closed. And it's the exact same when it comes to a website. Make it appealing, make the content exciting so that you gain the user's trust as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And that they want to read it, and that your website sticks in the mind of the user, and that they come back. So yeah, there's lots of boxes that content needs to tick in terms of quality, user engaging, value. And then we're getting on to some SEO sort of relevant factors.
Before we get on to that, let me just, I have a really good analogy for that. So content, in this case, something like, a website selling something like an e-commerce website, it's kind of like, the way I describe it is it's kind of like a dating profile. If you just have a picture there, like of your product, of a person, like what am I learning
Absolutely.
from that? But if
Absolutely.
you have other things, you can see if you're wasting your time, if it's relevant for you. And that's the way that people can get pushed down the funnel. And it's something that for some, I don't know, every time I tell this like entrepreneurs and freelance writers, they're like, oh. And it's so funny because it's the exact same principle. I'm like, oh, if you have a dating profile, no like details or whatsoever, just a picture, no one is going to swipe on it. And they're like, oh, I can see like the glass shattering. And it's the same with descriptions.
Absolutely, because it's not rocket science.
It's not, but
and I think
there is a shift.
Yeah, people just don't make the connections. They just think, I'll have a website and I'll stick up some content, and you know what? I'll start making money. And the reality is, it doesn't work that way. You have to, especially nowadays, where it is becoming harder, and Google is making it tougher. But, maybe go back 10 years or 5 years, things were a bit easier and you could rank easier. But nowadays, you've got to work hard at it. And people are looking much more at the whole value aspect. And that you can, it's not difficult. It's really not difficult.
It's really not. But what is difficult is if you don't have any flair. I mean, we're all born with different gifts and talents and everything. For me, I can't do anything visual. I'm like, I just don't get it, and for some people, that's how they feel about writing. To me, writing comes naturally. I can make virtually anything engaging and interesting to read. But other people, they can't because they don't have the gift. And that's the thing, is that it's not just as simple as chucking up content, but there are still things that you can do. You can learn to write more engagingly. I teach that all the time. It's very easy to teach. The difference is when someone has something to say but can't get it out, and they're trying to write specifically for, let's say, Google, or for someone to buy something, and they don't know how to do it. Anyway, so what I do is I Google around the topic, I search a few things, and then on the search result, I scroll to 2 places. One is in the middle, it says people also search for, and then one is right at the bottom, and it's they have questions, and the one at the bottom is other searches related to this query. How is what you've suggested, you're also asked, better than what I'm doing already?
No. I don't think it's a case of being better or worse. I just try and take as much information and data as possible when trying to put something together. So if you check out this also asked, you put in a search query or particular keywords, and then it basically produces sort of a family tree of connecting questions and search terms. And you can click then on each individual result, and it opens up like a further tree
Wow.
connecting to it. So you can really build out like an entire sitemap, so to speak, of content ideas.
Wow.
So
Kind of
yeah,
like
for any,
answer the public, but like less complicated.
probably, yeah. So for anyone that doesn't know it, definitely check out Also Asked. So content off the site and content on the site.
Right.
So for anybody that's involved in organic marketing, they will have heard of somebody called Neil Patel.
Done.
He's a talented individual, is
He
Neil.
is.
So yeah, it's a lot. His blog is full of great ideas, just informative content, and he actually talks. I mean, I found something earlier on that says like the content marketing and SEO. Well, you can't really have one without the other. But he goes on and he says it's a cute analogy, but it's simply not accurate. It's not as if SEO and content marketing are two different people. To borrow the same metaphor, SEO and content marketing are actually two personalities of the same person.
I see.
Which makes a lot of sense.
It does.
Because
Wow.
because you can't have one without the other. So it's in effect, you're talking about having two shop windows, like everything on your site, engaging, quality, high value, blah, blah, blah. But equally, when you're writing content to be posted on maybe a third party site, but it's associated with your brand and what you're offering, that needs to be equally as high level, creative, informative, no spelling mistake, given the basics, because that's how you start to generate like social shares, generate other links, and you can drive traffic through other people's websites into your own website.
Yeah, and in fact, taking that one step further and drilling it down for content writers, it's much more also about, making sure it has all the same messaging, all the same tone, voice, everything. That is always a problem with like that jarring kind of shift from, oh, this is what I read somewhere, I clicked through, and now it's something completely different. That is where a lot of users will leave because it's not what they've kind of signed up for or what they fell in love with. It's something
Absolutely.
very strange.
Absolutely. And that's actually, you're talking about user intent,
yep.
Which in recent times have become like a very big indicator for Google. So yeah, they're looking at that because they want to make sure that they're giving. Now, we all know Google's a business and they do things to ensure they maximize their profit, which is fine.
Yep.
But at the same time, I do believe that it's in their best interest to ensure that the results they give to a search query are the most accurate and best results.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course, and we can all do our part in making that happen. As content writers, as SEO professionals, it's up to us. We are the future.
I thought you were going to say we are the people. I was going to be very well. We are the people. Yeah, but no. Also, I saw a great article just this morning in the Guardian from like going back 7-8 years,
wow.
where it's talking about the importance of content, and like the sort of subheading was, is content really king?
Ooh.
So the whole subject of content and organic marketing, SEO, it's so interlinked, and it has been for years and years and years, and it will continue to do so because Google needs fresh content.
We must feed the Google monster, yes.
If you want it, you must feed that Google monster. Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you're going to feed it, you may as well feed it with good stuff and not your just give me 500 words with these keywords and that'll do. Because there's no value in it.
Exactly. I don't think anyone does that anymore, but actually I know for a fact they do. I've seen it. I've rejected writers based on that. You ask for an SEO content writer and people they seem to think that means like pile up the keywords and shove them in every which way, and
absolutely. Absolutely. And it's also people just think, well, let's just build a page for every single keyword, and it's dated tactics. It's also boring. Like, it's really
Of
not
course.
creative stuff.
Of course.
And it's very much like in the more spammy sectors, like gaming or Forex, like all these things are taking place. But I'll tell you a funny story,
Yeah.
and you'll like this. So about 6 months ago or so, I had a client. Not going to tell you sector or names or anything like that, but I was using an external writer. Was testing them out. I hadn't worked with this writer before. Now, no matter who, actually, I'll correct that. I think you are the only external writer that I've used where I've not copyscaped when I receive the content.
Really?
Yes.
That's a huge compliment. Copyscape is to check for plagiarism.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm
So
that original, everyone. I must say.
exactly. But I also knew where you lived, so I could have come round and just and sorted you out.
Thank
But
you.
yes, but I didn't. So I didn't copyscape you. But this writer, well, when I say writer, well, we can discuss the meaning behind that. I copyscape. I ran a test, 3 articles. The best article I received from this writer had 66% plagiarism.
I mean, there is something to be said that when you've been writing for a long enough time, you end up eventually kind of plagiarizing yourself, but not to 66%. No, I mean I've copyscaped myself sometimes because if I'm doing like a massive project, all for the same industry, all for for one website, and like you said, like one keyword per page or whatever, or one topic per page, you do end up repeating the same things over and over and over again. But even when I copyscape myself across, I don't know, like 250 pages, the most I got was something like 3% because there were some phrases that you couldn't change and everything, keywords or not, like industry terms.
Yeah.
But 66%.
No, that. I sent it back and I said, don't even ask me for payment because that's just ridiculous.
Did you tell the client?
Did I tell the client?
Yeah.
No, because I got it written elsewhere. But no, as you say, 2-3%, you can live with that because if that could come down to like some numbers or something if you're talking about a particular product.
Yeah.
That's fine. But that's literally copy paste. And that goes back to what we were talking about, where everybody just said, oh, I can be a content writer. It's the easiest job. And it's just, how hard can it be to sit down and just stick 600-700 words down on a bit of paper? And again, to any brand owner out there that's watching this, it's worth investing in your shop window. And I actually had a meeting last night with a new client in like the technology sector. They seem a great company.
Yep.
It's sort of a startup. So I was asking them, like, you've got great content on your site. We might need to, expand on it a little bit, but whatever. Who writes your content? And she said, oh, the CEO, the co-founder and CEO. And to me, that, on one hand, that you can say, well, has he got nothing better to do with his time? But on the flip side, you're sitting there and you're thinking, no, it's vitally important to this guy that users are coming onto his platform and the content is like just on such a high level.
From the heart as well.
From the heart, yeah. So for me, that's a positive that they really care. Go on.
I see it as good that it's coming straight from the heart and that obviously the CEO can write in such a nice way, but that's going to be very hard to maintain. I think CEOs should be writing their own content to a point. And that's the problem. It's when they decide to put it onto someone else. That's when there's that, jarring that we spoke about earlier, the jarring of tone, voice, everything. So as long as the CEO can either keep up his content schedule or train someone else to understand what he wants, then it's all good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. The tone has to be consistent.
Yeah.
So if the CEO is going to be involved, which I hope he will continue to be, then amazing. Absolutely.
Nice.
Absolutely. Yeah. But look, in summary, content. In summary, no, it grates me sometimes when I go into a website where somebody is, it's not an informational website. It's like product. You're selling stuff.
Yeah.
Invest in the content. it's worth it's worth
Worth
it in the
every
long run.
penny.
It's worth
It
it in the
really
long
is,
run.
because that's another thing about business owners, especially that I find working with them. It's, you know, they're always looking for like the bottom line, and that's the thing. You can't see the bottom line on a piece of writing because you don't know who's going to like react to it in which way. So that's the thing. It's always worth it to invest in it. And if you can tell that something is badly written, like you know you did before you had a sense before you even did the copyscape, it's worth getting a second opinion or trying to do it yourself and getting someone to fix it. That's always my quick fix.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. And also, English is not universal.
It's
This is
not though.
no, this drives me up the wall.
But we say that as Brits, don't we?
If well, we do, but I don't think that's so relevant. I think if I'm originally from Glasgow in Scotland, so if I'm working with a client and their target audience is in the US, I'm going to make sure the content is written for a US target audience.
Oh, 100%. That's the thing.
Likewise, if your target audience is in the UK or South Africa or whatever it might be, you have to tailor the content to that specific country or geolocation.
Yeah.
Like, make sure you get. Go on.
You should go one further, and you should actually get a writer from that location. I know
Absolutely.
that I see Americans trying to pretend they're English, and it's, you know, we can sniff them out a mile. I'm sorry, Americans, but we can sniff you out a mile. We don't speak like you think we speak.
100%.
You know, oh, quite lovely. No, we don't say that. I've never said, apart from just now, I've never said that in my life.
We speak the Queen. We speak the Queen's English.
Yeah, you know, from Scotland, from London. Yeah, we speak exactly like the Queen. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
us living in Israel.
I don't know what the problem is.
Quite.
Yes, but no. So those are just basic things that people need to consider when they are, you know, researching and putting a content plan together. And the other thing, content calendars.
Oh.
You probably wouldn't be amazed. However, some people may be amazed how many companies out there do not work with a content calendar.
Yeah,
and I'm not talking about like some crazy high level, you know, bit of equipment where you have to pull in all this information. Work on if you use Google for email.
Google Sheet.
Just Google Sheet or a Google Calendar, so that just put it in. Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, I'm posting on LinkedIn.
Yeah, blog once a week on this day, Instagram on that day. That's very simple.
That's it. And set reminders. And 10 minutes before you'll get a reminder. Need to post on LinkedIn. Spend 5 minutes looking around. What can you post? Obviously, if you are building like a bigger campaign, then that takes more research, more time, more investment, because the messaging across all the platforms, from your blog to social to wherever, needs to be consistent.
Yeah.
But like, just have a calendar.
I actually do it very differently. I do, I try and keep it as minimal as possible. So my calendar looks like, for example, one blog post that you then schedule and put it onto different social platforms. So you've got all of your content done with one piece of effort.
There we go. It's just
not that I'm the genius. It's just about,
but it's just
nicely done, easily,
It's being organized and having consistent messaging.
Yeah.
And not overcomplicate. We've been talking, 10, 15 minutes.
I don't even know.
Nothing that we've talked about is overcomplicated.
Yeah, my whole thing is working smart, not hard. It's working smart, not hard. Don't make your life any harder than it needs to be, especially nowadays. Make it as simple and easy as possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree completely.
Exactly. Well, thank you, Paul. This has been very
This has been fun. This has been fun. Yes.
So thank you so much, Paul, for joining us. It's been a little bit of a non-traditional content takedown, but we like doing stuff non-traditionally. It's very insightful, so thank you. If any of you watching wants to be on my next content takedown, please get in touch, DM me, message me, and we'd love to have you.